Hey, y'all. As a growing family, my husband and I love game night, especially when it's Wayfair edition.
Let's do it. You gotta name as many Wayfair furniture and decor categories as you can. Ready? Go.
Sofas, bar stools, beds, ottomans, outdoor seating, bookshelves, kitchen tables, garden sheds, mid-century modern lamps.
Time. Nice. You got 9 out of a lot. Not too bad. Keep practicing by visiting wayfair.com, where you can shop every style for every home.
Wayfair, every style, every home.
Welcome to Lifestyle Solopreneur, the community for entrepreneurs who put lifestyle first. Join your host, Flavia Barris, as she interviews successful lifestyle solopreneurs and shares ideas to help you find the perfect balance between lifestyle, business, and self. Flavia is an attorney, marketing expert, and founder of several online academies. She's been featured in major media, including BBC World News, The Wall Street Journal, The New York Post, ESPN Television, and more. Join us for this episode of Lifestyle Solopreneur.
Hey, Lifestyle Solopreneurs. Today we get to meet Mike Milligan. He is the founder of One Oak Financial, a dynamic virtual financial planning firm. Mike believes most people are unprepared to navigate Wall Street, insurance companies, and financial markets. As a result, they fall into one-size-fits-all solutions that lead to missed opportunities and also lost wealth, a pattern that he calls the paralysis penalty. In response, Mike built One Oak Financial, short for one of a kind, to prioritize each client's individuality. His truly unique approach has earned national attention, featured on CNBC, Fox, ABC, and NBC, and it started with a deeply memorable story involving his granny selling collared sandwiches in small-town America. Outside the office, he's a father to 3 thriving adult children, husband to a top realtor, and dog dad to 3 pampered dachshunds. Welcome to the show, Mike.
I am so thrilled to be here.
So excited to have you here. First of all, I absolutely love that you're a dog dad to 3 pampered pooches. I love, love, love my lab. He's a goofy boy, 70 pounds of pure energy. But tell us a little bit about your story. You are in finance today. I love to ask people, how did you get to where you are? Because I think, when we're in grade school and people ask us, what do you want to be when you grow up? We throw things out there like a ballerina or, a fire person or whatever it is. But very few, and I ended up in kind of a keyboard type world and a keyboard type job myself. So how did you end up in finance? Tell us how you got here.
Well, I can't leave the dogs yet because you said you have one dog that weighs 70. My 3 combined weigh 70. And they are, and you labeled them right. They are 3 pampered dachshunds. In the intro, you did talk about me working with my granny selling collard sandwiches in small town America. To give some perspective, that was in Laurinburg, North Carolina, which is a small town just on the North and South Carolina border. My granny had to innovate out of desperation. The love of her life, Walter, my grandfather, he owned a construction company and was, like many, diagnosed with, like many people have, he was diagnosed with terminal cancer. It forced him out of the workforce, but they did not save in traditional 401ks or IRAs, and they were not yet Social Security age. So my granny had to do something to make money, and the only thing she knew how to do, except for being an amazing wife and a mother and a grandmother, was cook food. And so she started making collard sandwiches. And when I was 11 years old, we would take those around town to lunch spots, and she would sell them for $5 when at the time you could buy a Big Mac at McDonald's for $1. And, I've learned so much from her. She is my constant business coach, even almost 40 years later, because I'll look back on what she did in those desperate times. And I'm thinking, like, how did she do it? And, I've realized over her, by analyzing what she did, is she wasn't selling collard sandwiches. She was selling love. She was selling a story. She was selling this dream or hope she had about continuing to provide for herself in the wake of tragedy. And she did that for, the rest of her working years, for about 15 years. And those collard sandwiches became very famous in our town. that process of me helping her sell collard sandwiches, I met a banker, a gentleman who was wearing a suit and tie in an office. And I always wanted to wear a suit and tie. And the only other person I knew that did that was a preacher. And I did not want to be a preacher man. So I asked him, how do you become a banker? And he set me on a path of going to college. And when I got to college, I found out what degree you have to get. And then I got a master's degree. And then sure enough, I started working at a bank, and I explored all of the different departments banks had. I sat in boardrooms where, people were talk about profit. I sat in on systems meetings where I would see account numbers and social security numbers. And I would sit in on meetings where people would talk about how do we make more money for this client. And what I learned by working in those institutions for 10 years is that people got lost in systems, stories. People's stories got muted because profit was first. And so that's why I founded One Oak Financial.
So tell us, what is the company? What does it do? And give us a little bit of sort of the backstory of some of your clients, because I love hearing about not just what a company does, but how it works for its clients and customers and how it changes their lives.
So entrepreneurs are unique because, like we mentioned in the opening, they see problems and create solutions that need to be solved in their communities or even globally. We do the same thing at One Oak Financial, and we cater to pre-retirees and retirees. Now, why would we cater to entrepreneurs? Is because we are at heart an entrepreneurial firm. We understand what it's like to sign the front of all of the checks, to pay the mortgage on our commercial building, to pay over 180 vendors to run a company. We know what it's like to have to miss a paycheck in order to make sure that the families that work with us are taken care of. One of the things that baffles me in the entrepreneur space, because I know a lot of entrepreneurs, I've probably talked or worked with thousands of entrepreneurs, is how they will consistently work or take advice from somebody who is an employee of a company. They'll go into a bank where the person is giving them advice on business growth, but is checking out or clocking out every day at 5:00 and taking, their 3.5 weeks of vacation and 2 weeks of federal holidays a year. Employees don't understand the role or the heartache or the decisions that an entrepreneur has to make. So I wanted to build a firm that not only understood entrepreneurs, but also lived life with them. We give advice to the entrepreneurial community based off the things that we have seen and witnessed as an entrepreneur company ourselves.
So one thing that people who don't regularly consult with a financial planner already is I don't think everyone understands what the process really is. I know there are a lot of people who think you get a financial planner once you're a multimillionaire and you need to have someone manage your money for you. But until then, you should just kind of do that on your own. And give us a little background on, what is financial planning at its core? Is it that someone manages your money for you? Is it that someone gives you advice on what you should do? Is it someone looks at your life situation and tells you where you might want to optimize or do things differently? Is it just advice, or is it management? There's so much out there, and a lot of people, I think, just don't know, and they're sort of afraid to ask, because it's also one of those things where you ask and then you probably feel like you then have to explain why you do or don't want that person's services. So maybe cutting through some of that, because here on the podcast, you're not face to face with anyone, but you're certainly voice to voice. And if someone came to you and said, look, I don't have a financial planner, I'm not a multimillionaire, like, what would someone like you be able to do for me, and what would that look like?
Well, the one size fits all financial services community, the firms that are out there, want you to lean on them for everything. But at the end of the day, what they primarily do is manage investments. And so that's why people feel like if I don't have a lot of money, if I'm not a multimillionaire, if I don't have money sitting in the bank, the financial advisory or financial planning world is not for me. In its absolute, the biggest expense we all have in our life is taxes. And taxes is a financial planning matter. Most very successful entrepreneurs have a CPA, a tax preparer that will file their taxes. And there are a select few of tax preparers who will do some tax planning in November or December, right before you get ready to file your taxes. But the reality is most CPAs, because of how their business is structured, are really historians. They take data from the previous year, put it on a document that memorializes the previous year. They file it with an agency that's going to tell you whether or not it's right, but that's all in the history. A great financial planner, an entrepreneur especially, who would need a financial planner, would work with a financial planner to minimize taxes legally first. Taxes for an entrepreneur, you can do that through structure and loopholes. So if you have great structure in your business, your legal structure, and you understand the loopholes, then you can implement a tax plan that ultimately saves you money that then you could either reinvest back in your company or you can invest for your future. So then after taxes, a good financial planner is going to ask you, what is your exit plan? Like in your business, where do you see yourself taking the exit ramp and doing something different? And there, you're going to have conversations about what that looks like. Then they're going to ask you questions about your investments. See, this is where the one size fits all world, they start with investments. A financial planner is going to start with tax planning, your exit strategy, and then they're going to get into investments. And that's when you talk about things like, what is your emergency fund? Do you have enough cash flow to sustain your business and your lifestyle? Do you have extra that you can save? And if so, what is the purpose of those savings? And should we then invest that money? And so that's going to be more of the investment conversation. That's how you grow wealth outside of the business. Two other elements that a good financial planner are going to help you with is like, what happens if the unexpected comes? Like, what happens if you're no longer healthy enough to work, if you have a disability, if, like my grandfather, you get cancer all of a sudden, how's your family going to be taken care of? And then ultimately they talk to you about your legacy, putting like documents in place to avoid the unnecessary time waste that is probate or end of life disruptions. So a financial planner should be approachable, and they should do it in a way that helps you reduce expenses. The biggest expense you have is taxes. Help you plan with budgeting, debt management, and if you have extra to save, then helps you with savings plans. A really good financial planner, it doesn't matter about your net worth or your balance sheet. It matters what impact they can make on your current situation, and by forecasting what that looks like for the future.
And I'm sure anyone listening would think this all sounds like really prudent, like definitely something everyone should do is just part of adulting 101 or, adulting, maybe it's 201. It might be advanced adulting, but it sounds that way. But there's a lot of people out there that don't have a financial planner. So I'm curious, what do you think is the main reason that people hesitate to even consider getting help with this aspect of their lives? Is it that they don't want to share their sort of secrets and, that finances are considered kind of private and that they don't want to talk to a stranger or even someone they know, maybe especially not someone they know? Like, if Aunt Sally is a financial planner, that might feel even more sort of invasive. Or is it the privacy thing, or is it that they think it'll cost more than it saves them? Like, what do you think is the holdup?
I think the biggest gap that exists between having a financial planner and not having a financial planner when somebody's trying to decide, it's just a knowledge gap. Like, I don't think they understand what financial planners do. But then I also think individuals have specialties in like the entrepreneur businesses that they're running, right? So realtors are going to be really good at real estate, and people who are manufacturing are going to be really good at putting widgets together, and people who are doing marketing are really good at marketing. But there's a knowledge gap. There's like, I get questions all the time like, what is compound interest? Or I was presented with this product. Is it right for me? Or what is probate? Or what is, so I get all of these what are questions, or what is this question? And there's just a knowledge gap out there. We don't, like you can enter the, you can leave high school now in America and have to take this interesting little personal financial planning course to graduate high school, but you have no application, no real life. Because when you're 17, 18, and you take that course, you don't know like what a stock is, or a bond, or a life insurance, or you don't know that stuff. So it's like you're getting educated at a point in time where you can't receive the education. And then you get out in the real world and you have a few things happen, but nobody's there to educate because everybody is trying to earn a profit in their business. And so somebody, like when you walk into a bank and you say, I need to grow my business, the solution is take out a loan because that's where the bank profits. And they tell you to put deposits with them because then they can make a spread on it. So the education piece, the gap that exists between where people currently are and what they need to know is there. I mean, it's one of the things that, like at One Oak, we have a couple of different companies at One Oak. One Oak Financial is the advising and planning one, but we also have One Oak Collective, where we educate people. We have courses on like personal financial planning and tax planning for entrepreneurs, and finances for high schoolers, finances for college students. We have a life insurance course and a disability course where people can go and like learn concepts so that then they can better negotiate with the reality that's out there, negotiate with Wall Street, negotiate with life insurance and banks and the such, but you're negotiating at a place of strength because you have knowledge versus at a place of weakness or lower self-worth because you don't know the right questions to ask.
Well, I know you're big on education. I mean, you're an adjunct professor at Old Dominion University. So I know you believe, because I do it too. I'm an adjunct professor at a law school here in where I live in San Diego, California. I'm not doing that as my full-time gig. I'm an adjunct because I still have my work that I do, but I love to teach. I love to go give back and kind of see people's eyes and minds opening. And you're about that too, for sure, because you also wrote books. You have a podcast. Tell us about the podcast. Tell us about your books.
So the book I wrote is called The One of a Kind Financial Plan. It's out on Amazon. So you can just Google Mike Milligan author or The One of a Kind Financial Plan, and you're going to find it there. I wrote the book to be able to start that education journey for folks. And I wrote the book to be more of a storytelling book. An easier intro read into financial planning of why the industry is maybe rigged against you. So eyes could be open to what the reality of what today's financial markets and financial services companies are. But then I also, on top of writing the book, our podcast is centered more about bringing industry guests on to break down the complex and make it simple. We call that podcast Ideas by Mike. And it's just me having conversations with people who have made it or are trying to make it, and understanding the patterns behind how they have made it in the financial world. We don't do a lot of deviation from the financial on that podcast. And then finally, on the education side, COVID taught us something that in the education space that was absolutely amazing. In the education space, we don't have to be in a classroom for people to learn. And so now we have like the education that I do, not only with ODU, but outside in the One Oak Collective, it's on demand. Meet people where they are when they're ready to hear it. Watch them. We update those courses on a semester basis. So like now we just started the spring semester. So personal financial planning is running right now for the spring. We'll update it in the fall, right? But from now until July, you can watch personal financial planning and build be more equipped to be able to financial plan for yourself right now.
And I mean, you're talking to us, right? We're people listening to this podcast and other podcasts that are serious topics and really just move your life and propel you forward. We are not sitting watching TMZ all day or true crime podcasts, which are great, by the way. I'm sure that, they're fantastic for entertainment. But I think all of us gathered here at this podcast, we're here for the education and we're here to learn and to better ourselves and to just learn more strategy. And you're really strategic because you're not just someone that consults and teaches other people what to do. Even where you live now was a tax strategy and optimized, right? So tell us a little bit about that, how you can use geography, not just what you've done, but I know a lot of people strategize even, where they spend their summer versus their winter, and they're always making sure about where they are 6 months out of the year. So tell us a little bit about that kind of strategy, because a lot of people listening might be aspiring digital nomads and looking to sort of be more mobile and be geographically independent and flexible. What do you have to say about that?
So taxes are the biggest expense we're ever going to pay in our life. If you're an entrepreneur, there's a lot of legal loopholes that you can use to reduce your taxes, such as, and I'm just going to throw a couple things out there in case people want to research them, but like there's the Augusta rule. There is Section 179 bonus depreciation. There's S Corp election and payroll structure to be able to reduce Social Security and Medicare tax. But there's the family payroll strategy where if you have kids and you have 1099 income, you could pay your kids a certain amount and that'd be tax-free income. But and then there's geographic arbitrage. And so what geographic arbitrage is, like, for instance, if you live on a state line, right? So like if you lived between like California and Nevada and you're five minutes from either side of that state line, well, the obvious choice there would be to live in Nevada because state income taxes are lower. But what we did is we went even further than that. Is my wife and I moved to a U.S. territory. We moved to Puerto Rico. Puerto Rico allows you to, through a law they have called ACT, allows you to import U.S. sourced income onto the island into a Puerto Rico company. So we have One Oak Financial, we have One Oak Collective, but in Puerto Rico, we have a company called One Oak Puerto Rico, One of a Kind Puerto Rico is our company down there, where money from these other companies is legally imported from the U.S. into Puerto Rico. It's an expense to the U.S.-based company, which means an expense, we all know, is deducted off gross income, so we don't pay tax on it. That revenue is in Puerto Rico now, and because it's part of One Oak Puerto Rico, after we have our payroll that we pay ourselves some money, then the rest of that income is only taxed at 4%. Versus being taxed at like pass-through entity rates of 24% in the U.S. and then an additional state tax. We used to live in Virginia, so an additional state tax of 5 3/4. So we're in essence saving 25.25% tax on revenue that used to be taxed in the United States. That's now taxed as imported money into Puerto Rico.
Amazing. And that's, again, it's not for everybody. Not everyone is flexible. I mean, some people need to live where they live. But I just think that's something that everyone should at least think about. Even if you end up not changing anything about what you're doing, it's something you should at least stop, think, and consider with the help of someone like you to guide them. But like you said, there's plenty of research that can be done and plenty of learning that can be done as well, just to understand what's out there, because it's one, you can't set it and forget it when it comes to your finances and even really your adult life. There's so much, including health, as we get older, all the things that play in. It really is something you have to check in and re-strategize once in a while. I mean, some things more regularly, other things can wait a few years between, you really sitting down and considering. But I love that you're someone that's all about strategy, but also helping people. I think that's just great.
And one of the things is we all have people like that in our life. If you're religious, you have a pastor. If you're health conscious, you may have a trainer. Also we have doctors and nurses, physical therapists who help us when we need them. Financial planner, a really good financial planner. You should not have to worry about their fees because they should triple, quadruple, 5 times the savings they give you of what they pay. That's when you know you're in a good relationship, is when you have economic value for yourself for the advice and the planning that you're getting.
So for anyone that wants to follow you, your podcast, get copies of your books, where is the best place for them to go to learn more about you?
Easiest place is to go to mikemilligan.com. That website kind of encapsulates everything that I am, my educate, coach, and plan philosophy. You can learn more about where my education courses are there. If you're a financial advisor or anybody in the industry where you want coaching, we actually coach other financial advisors, other people in this. So we do that in the coaching platform on that site. And then the planning will lead you directly to One Oak Financial. And if you want to go search for the podcast, it's Ideas by Mike. It's just Ideas by Mike. You can find it on all major podcast streaming networks. And the book is found both on my website, mikemilligan.com, but also on amazon.com.
And before we sign off today, what's kind of a last parting thought for the day that you'd want to share with us? Because you're someone that sees a lot of entrepreneurs come to you for advice. They come into your world. They sort of lay themselves bare in some ways to say, hey, here's where I am today. And then you help them get to a better place. So for anybody that hasn't yet gone on that journey, what could you tell them that could be actionable for them today? Something that would help them, even if they never end up getting financial advice professionally, which I highly advise everyone to consider having a financial planner in your corner. But if someone never does, what's something they can do to be in a better position in their adulting journey that you can share with us today?
Well, if you're an entrepreneur or aspiring entrepreneur, I want you to know I see you. I feel you. I've been where you are currently are or where you're heading. Those 11:30 at night accounting that accounting work you're doing, that 5:30 in the morning payroll that you're getting out because the cutoff is, I see that. I know it. I know what you're going through. And if I can leave you one set of advice for this is, don't wait until it's too late if you need help. When times are good, that's when it's time to be trying to figure out how it can be better. Because if you wait until it's, to bring a financial consultant or a financial advisor or a financial planner into your business when times are bad, your options are much more limited, because we all know when problems are ignored, they get bigger. And as a business owner, we all can use help along the way, whether that is just, a one-time call where we could say, yes, you're going down the right path, or if it's more of a consulting or planning agreement where we help you with planning, coaching, or educating.
As always, Mike, it's such a pleasure to talk to you. It's very refreshing just to have everything brought into sharp focus, and it, even for me, someone who has been on board with financial planning, and, I even help people. I'm a lawyer. I do trusts and wills, and I have to get into these conversations as well with people about legacy and all of it. I absolutely love taking a pause, taking a moment, sitting with you, talking like this, and realizing that no matter how much you've done, you can always spend a little more time strategizing, reevaluating, where are you today? What has changed? What should you do in the future? And not just what has changed with your life, but what has changed with the economy and what has changed with forces and things outside of your life that do affect you, right? So I think this is just a great reminder. Anyone that's listening today, just take it as your sign that it's time to sit, reevaluate, be strategic, be like Mike, be strategic, even move if it's what's best for you and your family and your situation, to another country, even another state, whatever makes sense for you. I love having you here, Mike. Thank you so much for your time today and for all that you do for all of your clients and all the listeners.
It was such an honor to be here.
Hey everyone, thank you so much for joining us, and I hope you enjoyed the show. Don't forget to subscribe to this podcast, and if you leave a review on iTunes, I promise I will read every single review. If you know someone who makes a full-time living from part-time work, and maybe this is you, please visit lifestylesolopreneur.com to nominate a guest or to nominate yourself. Because remember this, money doesn't buy happiness. But money in the hands of a happy person, there is no greater tool.
Today's episode was brought to you by the Get Shift Done program. It's a lifestyle-changing online class to help you define your business and lifestyle ambitions and to set goals in a way you've never experienced before. This class will 10x your daily productivity with methods that will blow your mind. And if you use a coupon code podcast, the class tuition is 99% off. Visit GetShiftDone.com to enroll today.